Hey, what is going on? The Catch fam. Hope you guys are doing phenomenal tonight, man. Hope everyone out there had a great Monday. Hope you guys are starting to rack up some fantasy victories for the week. I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, week 2 is about 10 minutes away from ending. We have got the Browns and the Steelers beginning to wrap up here. Got some different fantasy implications from the Saints and Panthers games to talk about, and a couple of big implications coming from the Browns and Steelers game as well. So, gonna hop on here for a little bit, see what's going on with everybody, see how week 2 went for everybody, see how things are looking going into week 3 for you guys, and of course, hop into some fantasy Q&A. Anything that you guys need, starts, sits, trades, roster reviews, waiver wire questions. Waiver wire must-adds did drop last night, but of course, every league's different. Players are different in every single league. So we've got a lot to get into, guys. Another week down, but the grind doesn't stop, okay? So hope you guys all had a good week 2 overall in terms of fantasy. Hope you guys have had a great night, and we'll kind of watch the end of this game, or at least I'm watching it. You guys might be. It's close right now. I mean, Browns 22, Steelers 19. Been kind of a, I don't know. I don't want to say ultimately defensive game, but it's been a Browns Steelers game, divisional game. So, anyways, okay. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe on the way. And that's all we do here all year round: free fantasy football content, redraft, dynasty, and best ball. But most importantly, guys, please get in the live chat. Like I said, anything that you guys need, any fantasy questions, I'm here for you guys. Okay, so obviously, give me 1 second here. I'm gonna go ahead and set up the poll. Guys, hit that like while we're at it as well. I'm typing as fast as I can. All right, we're good now. So obviously, the big thing to get to tonight is a Nick Chubb injury. I mean, just a gruesome injury as TJ Watt just picked up the football and ran it into the end zone. We'll see if there's a review, but that looked like a pretty clean fumble. So Steelers take the lead, excuse me, doing too many things at once. But yeah, the Nick Chubb injury, just gruesome, awful. We hate to see it. Just there's no words, right? I mean, like it just sucks. It sucks. Sucks for fantasy, sucks for Nick Chubb of all. I mean, all things aside, sucks for Nick Chubb, of course. I mean, one of the most, I feel like one of the most humble players in the NFL. Like, you never hear anything bad about Nick Chubb. Uh, it just sucks. It really does. But of course, a lot of fantasy implications from it. It's bad for real football. I mean, it just sucks. And yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into the details of the injury, but I don't think Nick Chubb is playing the rest of the season. So yeah, it's you hate to see it. Absolutely hate to see it. But yeah, Jerome Ford at the moment, if you're desperate enough, is worth adding. Like we still want to pick up Jerome Ford. But I do think that the Browns are probably going to add another running back to this roster. You've got Pierre Strong on the roster as well. So, I mean, I don't really know if that means a whole lot, but Pierre Strong is there as well. The Browns do play the Titans in week 3, a very good run defense that I warned you guys about all week 2. Told you guys, please don't start Josh Kelly. Anyways, it's a tough run defense for the Browns. They are at home, but I don't know if that's going to matter. Then they get the Ravens. So, like, the next 2 weeks don't look great in terms of the run game for the Browns anyways. And if I'm not mistaken, their bye week is week 5. So I would assume by then they have another running back. Then they get the Niners after that. Yes. I mean, it's not like it's really like, if there are other running backs who are kind of popping up, you probably need to go add them. Like if Kyron Williams is available, like you need to add him. Cam Akers gone. Like he's the workhorse running back here. So it just depends. And maybe even Zach Moss until JT's back is just a better overall situation. But I mean, the Browns do like to run the football. But at the same time, these next couple matchups, the bye week sprinkled in there, I'm just not jumping out on the waiver wire like crazy, especially when Josh Reynolds is available, even Tutu Atwell. Like there are other names out there that we need to consider. So, and So we'll get into more of the Nick Chubb stuff throughout the night as well. But hopefully, you guys aren't too crazy impacted by the Nick Chubb injury. But I know that some of you guys out there are definitely going to be. But Jamal Williams left the game between the Saints and the Panthers, which was the most boring game that I've watched all year long. Although, I mean, I guess the Panthers made it a little bit interesting at the end. Jamal Williams left with a hamstring injury because this is what is happening in the year 2023. Every player in the world is having a hamstring injury. And Tony Jones ended up with 15.4 fantasy points off of 12 rushing attempts, 34 yards on the ground, and 2 tutties. So he'll face Green Bay in week 3. It's an away game. I think it's an okay, like if you're desperate, like if you had Nick Chubb, and like everyone else has already swooped up off the waiver wire, like Matt Breida, Tony Jones, Jerome Ford, like these are guys that we do have to consider for the short term. But we know that Alvin Kamara is coming back to this team in week 4. And then they'll face Tampa Bay and New England. Not even great matchups. I mean, what has happened with Kendre Miller? Like, come on. Big expectations. But, Tony Jones, a pure short-term play if you're desperate at running back because we know Kamara is coming back. But, I mean, of course, he looked good against the Panthers. But I talked about this matchup. I really like Jamal Williams in this matchup because the Panthers played really poorly against the running back position in week 1. So I'm not surprised that Tony Jones turned this opportunity into 15 fantasy points, but we'll kind of see how things shake out here. So, all right, those are the big things from tonight's game so far. Hopefully nothing else gruesome happens, but definitely wish Nick Chubb the best recovery possible. He's had injuries in that knee before. And in terms of Jamal Williams, I mean, he's just going with the flow of the current. I mean, it's like a trend now, getting a hamstring injury. I don't know. I hope Jamal Williams is back on the field, though. He's obviously a player we all like to watch when healthy. So I think he would have had a good game if he was healthy. But nonetheless, let's get into some fantasy Q&A. Let me know what you guys need. Start, sits, trades, roster reviews, waiver wire, of course. Do you guys start Nick Chubb tonight? Do you guys own Nick Chubb? All that stuff. Let's get into it. Logan, good to see you. What's up, man? Hope you're doing fantastic tonight. Smoke at the cat. What's up, my guy? Rest of the season car on our Debo. That's a toughie. I mean, it's really hard to let go of a guy like Debo. Even with the inconsistency there, he's coming off of he's still double digits in week 1 and full PPR and hit double digits last week, of course. 11 points in week 1, 22 in week 2. He's got the Giants, then the Cardinals, where they face the Cowboys at home. Actually, they're at home the next 3 games, but then they get Cleveland and Minnesota, and then Cincy. So like a pretty, while some of these defenses are good, we're looking at some competitive game scripts and a lot of poor defenses. So it's tough because, when we were talking about Kyron Williams going into last week, I wasn't like crazy high on him because the matchup wasn't good. I mean, it's a Niners defense. Played well against the Niners. But also, we didn't get the news on Cam Akers really late in the week. So we didn't know about that. That would have changed things quite a bit, Not that Cam Akers was that good in week 1. He was extremely, inefficient. But Kyron, 28 points against the Niners defense is huge. And his involvement in the pass game, huge. 10 targets, 6 receptions. 48 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Kyron Williams, he didn't even make the waiver wire video because according to Sleeper, he's rostered in 64% of leagues. I try to keep anyone on that video under 50% rostered. But, man, just a massive game. They have 2 away games, one at Cincy, one at Indianapolis. So they get Philly, Arizona, Pittsburgh at home, then at Dallas, at Green Bay. But I'm not really even looking at matchups here because he's the workhorse running back in Sean McVay's offense, which has looked good so far to start the season. I mean, a year or two, we wouldn't be surprised by that statement at all, but we just didn't have big expectations for this team going into the year. They played great against Seattle, and they played very good, all things considered, against the San Francisco 49ers last week as well. So Kyron Williams is just I mean, he's a player that if he's available in your league, he is the number 1 waiver right now. And yeah, this is really tough, Smokey. I mean, It depends. Do you need the running back or the wide receiver more? And I don't think that I mean, I don't know if you're considering dropping or doing a trade here, but I'm not dropping either of these guys unless you're in like a 8 team, maybe a 10 team and you're stacked. But yeah, you can definitely trade either of these players or trade both of them. So it's gonna context is needed here. Depends on the rest of the roster, hands down. So toughy there. Toughy. All right. Kelvion, what's going on? Did the trade for Jamar gave up Swift and Waddle? Ooh. See, these trades are always tough for me because I'm like a depth guy and I would prefer just to keep Swift and Waddle. But like now is the time to sell Swift. I mean, I'm a believer in Swift this season, but I still don't know if Swift's going to have a better game than he had in week 2. And Waddle's in the concussion protocol. And I do think this is a good time to trade for Jamar Chase. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty around this Bengals team right now, a lot of uncertainty around Joe Burrow. So could definitely pay off whether Burrow's healthy or not. I mean, there's a strong chance that Burrow's about to miss some time, which is going to impact Jamar Chase. But can Jamar play just as well as anyone at the wide receiver position without Joe Burrow? I mean, we'll have to see, but probably. So, but of course, depends on your overall roster, and if you feel good about it, then I'm fine. Good to see you, Godfather. What's up, my guy? I hate that the emojis don't come through when I'm using this, but I like having the chat on screen. I feel like for fantasy Q&A, you guys like having the chat on screen more. It makes it a little bit, you're just not staring at my face. High upside, low risk. I know it's awful, heartbreaking. Logan, who you dropping, Higbee or Pitts? Pitts. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Pitts guy. I'm just not. I haven't been. You can go back and watch the streams last year and the drafts going into last year. I'm not a Pitts guy. The only way I was drafting Pitts this year was like if he was there in like the 8th, maybe 7th round. I mean, maybe you can trade him. Maybe. So think about that. VA Chubb owner, RIP my season. I mean, it does kind of stink. 2 really big injuries and early round injuries this past week, right? Saquon Barkley is going to miss some time. Austin Eckler is looking like he could miss some more time. And then now we have the Nick Chubb injury as well. I mean, those are all 3 running backs who could have gotten the first round in your league, depending on your league. So it's tough, but it happens. You know, we just got to keep moving, keep putting out the best potential roster that you can on a week-to-week basis. And I mean, there's going to be waiver wire opportunities, and your season is not over, not this early. This happens like week 10, and you've already lost 6 or 7 games. Maybe your season's over then, maybe not even. I mean, I've made the playoffs after losing like 6 games in a row. I mean, it's just, you just have to keep pounding, have to keep putting out the best possible roster that you can on a week-to-week basis and play the waiver wire hard. Okay. Don't give up quite yet. We're only 2 weeks in. Let me see here. Mark Cooper killed me, started Zay Jones over him. Yeah, Cooper was a tough. I was a little bit upset because I got the notification. Like, I feel like it was pretty early this evening that Amari Cooper was expected to play. I think I was cooking dinner and I was like, oh, come on. Come on. Like, yeah, I think he definitely hurt a lot of people. I mean, he hit double digits. So, yeah. Wasted $20 free agent bidding on Josh Kelly. Yeah, I mean, Kelly was definitely worth picking up, but as I told you guys all week, I did not like him as a start this week. But now it's looking like, I mean, Eckler, like I said, might miss some time. So, you know, if he's just starting back against the Vikings, which he probably will be in week 3, like I like Kelly more in week 3. It's a far better matchup. Then in week 4, he gets the Raiders. So not all is lost there. We'll just kind of have to see how long is Eckler going to be out. But I was reading some reports today that weren't entirely promising that he could continue to miss some time. So Dog, Addison, either one of these 3, White, Cook, or Chiron. I mean, yeah, obviously Addison is at this point, Addison is a must-start player, and he gets the Chargers. He made sneak peek the must-start wide receiver video for the week. You just have to roll him out there. And how about that Rashad White call last week, ladies and gentlemen? Told you guys he was going to bounce back against the Bears. I got to admit, I made some calls weren't great, like always, but I made a lot of calls that I'm proud of last week. But I mean, let's see here. The Buccaneers are playing the Eagles. So, like, I don't really particularly love Rashad White. Next week, James Cook gets the Steelers, who haven't been awful against the run tonight, haven't been great. Then Chiron gets the Bengals. So it's kind of tough there. I mean, all those guys are kind of in a similar tier. But I'd probably go Cook and Chiron. It looks like the Eagles are going to be one of those teams that we just simply don't want to start running backs against. But I mean, the Bucks are at home. Monday Night Football for what it's worth. Tommy, what's good, my guy? Sorry, I've been working like all night. I know you've been messaging me on Discord and going through some different trades on the Discord threads and everything. Brown's trying to put together a drive here and see if they can finish out this game. All right, Jerome Ford and Chiron both available on waivers. It's Chiron hands down. Any other running back is available. We hear some crazy things in some of your guys' leagues, but generally speaking, the waiver wire running backs who should be available, Chiron is number one. I don't think I'm saying his name right because I can't say anything right, but Browns look like they're driving at the 50-yard line. Yeah. So everyone already kind of assuming that Kareem Hunt is going to the Browns. I mean, it can definitely happen. And like I said, I do expect them to sign a running back. I think they're going to go through the season with Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong and no one else. So Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, really the only potential options. Let's see here. Running back free agents as Deshaun Watson rushes for about 4 or 5 yards. So let's see. All right, this is extremely outdated. These are all. I really feel like it's just Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette. Like, I really feel like there's nobody else worth talking about. Hold on. This looks like it could be helpful. No, this is not helpful. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I think I got it. All right, yeah, it's Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, J.D. McKissick, Mark Ingram, Rex Burkhead, Giovanni Bernard. Gosh, that's probably it. I mean, Daryl Williams had a visit. I forgot with who. He's available. I mean, Kenyon Drake is the other guy. See, a lot of these there's a lot of players that I could like. David Johnson's available, but he's 31. But a lot of the players who we've heard about are under the age of 30. JD McKissick's kind of interesting, but I guess Kenyon Drake is the other guy that we've heard kind of float around. James Robinson is kind of a name that I think could come up, but the obvious fit is Kareem Hunt. But you know me, I'm a little bit more hesitant around until we have some like factual things going out making moves like this. But the lead back on a team potentially is probably worth making some moves like this. And if Kareem Hunt goes to the Browns, as long as he can stay healthy, I mean, Jerome Ford's still going to be involved, but Hunt's going to be the guy. And the other thing that to bring up is the Cam Akers potential trade. So we know that Cam Akers is probably going to be shipped from the Rams. Don't really know what happened. I mean, obviously, Sean McVay confident in Kyron Williams, which makes sense. But I mean, Cam Akers is extremely inefficient in week 1 at 1.32 yards per carry off of 22 attempts. Did find the end zone, but didn't really matter. And then last year we had kind of the same debacle going on with Akers and the Rams, and he stayed with the team. Then he played well at the end of the year. And I don't know, there's definitely some sort of back and forth between this coaching staff and Akers. Maybe it's just best for both sides to move on. But Akers could be a potential to the Browns. And then you never know. There's other running backs out there who we're not thinking of that could be on the trade block as well. So we'll see what happens. Should I trade Tua, Amari, and JT? For that. It depends on your roster. I mean, like, who's your quarterback behind Tua? Amari is still a solid wide receiver 2 flex option. JT brings a good amount of upside to the table, even though he's not playing right now. And I really like Addison But even Addison and White or Addison and Cook or even Addison and Kyron, I mean, it's still pretty close. But I still think to a degree, I don't know, a 3-for-2 trade there. I feel like a 3-for-3 trade is still fair. I guess the big uncertainty between the trade is Tua, or excuse me, is JT. So sorry, I forgot the game is still going on. So Watson slings it nowhere. It's 3rd and 7. Roshan stocks down. Yeah, I mean, we heard these reports that he was going to get more touches throughout the game and everything, and it didn't really happen. But also, the game script just did not support him. And I expected that game to be a little bit more competitive and even like garbage time to come in as a factor. But Roshan had 4 touches, 32 yards on the ground, 2 targets, 2 receptions. Herbert had 7 touches, 35 yards on the ground, 3 targets, 1 reception. And then Donta Foreman was just inactive, right? So, I mean, the game script really got away here. They face Kansas City in week 3, though. I don't see a much better game script. So Roshan Johnson goes back to the bench, just kind of a pure handcuff that we're rolling with. I mean, I still think he's a fine handcuff, but this Bears team is kind of in shambles as the Browns throw an incompletion. Watson looking for a flag, and the game is probably over. GT Sport, what's going on, man? Should have listened to you about Kelly. Shake my head. I mean, it happens, man. I mean, I always tell you guys, trust your gut, follow your own conviction, and simply move forward with that. Um, at the end of the day, I don't know. I like the call. Obviously, it was really, I mean, it's like 3 streams in a row. I was telling you guys about the Kelly thing, but still, like, you guys got to look at your roster, and there's going to be, for as many good calls, like, I had some good calls this past week, but there's still going to be bad calls too, and calls that you guys could have avoided if you did trust your gut. So make sure you just, make sure you are putting out the best fantasy team each week that you think you can. Running backs are mid now. I have Rashad White and Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, it can be a lot better, but certainly not over here. Uh, and I think at the end of the day, if the rest of your team looks pretty solid, then you can get by with these guys, and that's the important thing. Could be worse. Could be a lot worse. I mean, I have, like, in one of our dynasty leagues, I really relying on Austin Eckler and Isaiah Pacheco. And after that, I'm pretty much screwed at running back. So I think I literally started Devon A. Shane. Like, there's no one on the waiver. Ultimately, it could be worse. But yeah, I mean, like, if you look pretty good at wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, then don't stress too much. Yeah, Steelers defense, I mean, I have to hand it to Steven. He does really good with the must start defense videos. And he got a couple negative comments throughout the week because, like, one of his favorite streams of the week was the Steelers defense. And I mean, obviously they looked really bad in week 1, but I mean, that was against, the San Francisco 49ers. And they had 29 points tonight. It was a great call. It's a great call. We got to hand it to Steven. If you guys listen to Steven, I mean, he knocked that one out of the park. So, and he kind of does that, like, every year. It happened a lot last year too, where he would, put a team out there and, like, maybe against the offense that had been doing pretty well, and he just kind of made his own call and, you know, ended up picking the right team. So Steelers defense looked great tonight, and they do come away with the victory. Tommy says I whipped your butt in redraft league number 2. I haven't even checked, but that's good, I guess, for me. It's hard. I kind of, like, glanced through. I did actually look through most of the leagues at the end of yesterday, but I still, like, don't even correlate like what teams am I beating or not beating, because so many leagues where I'm in this year. But good matchup, Tommy. See you in the playoffs, right? Angelo, full PPR, Burrow, Mixon, Brees, Hill, Olave, Addison, Judy, Kittle, Jamal Williams, Tony, Gibson, Bigsby, Love, Musgrave. 0-2. Yeah. This is tough. I mean, because Jamal Williams banged up. Gibson's done, like, next to nothing, and I mean, the Washington Commanders 2-0, looking okay right now. Um, but Gibson is a guy who had a better game in week 2. I just don't know how consistent he's gonna be. Brian Robinson looks like the workhorse back there. So Gibson, depending on who's available, might be droppable. Tony bounced back in week 2, as did Sky Moore. And I mean, Tony didn't like bounce back in like major fashion or anything, but he had 5 targets in week 1 and 1 reception. He had 5 in week 2 and 5 receptions. So I mean, that's bouncing back for Kadarius Toney standards. But yeah, in essence, with Williams hurt and Bigsby looking like a pure handcuff for the time being, you don't really have any trade value at all. And that's kind of the problem, because if we look at your starting roster here, I mean, like, the Bengals kind of in shambles, then Brees can't do it on his own. I mean, he needs to get more touches. The New England Patriots run defenses look soft the first 2 weeks of the season. Maybe is a better week 3. Olave, Addison, Hill, like, and even Kittle to a degree with Musgrave, like, you're fine at tight end, and then like your wide receiver core is good. That's the good news. I do think Brees Hall's still gonna have games where he pops, and Mixon's fine. He's just better as an RB2. So I mean, kind of what I would suggest is you probably really can't trade much here. Like, you have to hold on to Hill, Olave, and Addison, and you're okay at tight end. I mean, Judy, and it depends here if you're in a single or double flex league as well. Um, I told you guys I wasn't high on Judy in week 2. He might have a better game in week 3. They get Miami. So Miami is just looking like one of those teams that's going to be fun to start players against, although they were better in week 2 defensively. But Judy is a player I think you can trade. But I'm not very high on Judy. I wasn't going into the year. I mean, like, it's just tough here. I think you're in a position where you really need to play the waiver wire heavy. If you're not feeling good about Burrow, like, you need to start Jordan Love at this point, and maybe even consider picking up another guy to stream if they have better matchups. So it's a tough position because I just don't think you can really afford to trade anybody. So unfortunately, I would go to the waiver wire at this point. Good thing Steelers defense scored. Their offense wasn't going to. Now they have a chance to win. Yeah, crazy. Crazy. Good game. I mean, both games tonight were good. They just weren't like incredibly entertaining, But we have to remember that these defensive matchups are still good football games, right? Added forward before the game tonight, still lost Chubb and Barkley. I mean, good timing on your pickup, but yeah, gosh, I can't imagine going like double hero running back and getting like Chubb and Barkley and going into week 3 right now. Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance Hunt is back there, but we will also want to pump the brakes, see what we kind of get in terms of reporting for the next day or so. Panic on Fields. I mean, I have to admit, like, I'm probably panicking on Fields because I'd have a lot of personal shares of Fields, just the way a lot of my drafts worked out. Other than best ball, of course, I have a lot of shares of Fields, but I mean, the one like silver lining here is that last year Justin Fields just wasn't relevant till week 6. And the play calling, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of like poor tape right now through these first 2 weeks on Justin Fields. He has not played well. But a lot of the play calling is not benefiting Justin Fields whatsoever. And maybe they turn him loose. Like, they're barely designing any plays for him to run. He's barely running compared to last year. He only had 4 rushing attempts last week. And I mean, he had 9 in week 1. But for context, between week 6 and 11 last year, he had 12 or more rushing attempts in every game but 1, and that was against Dallas. And he had a ceiling of 18 rushing attempts in that span. Like, that's just what Justin Fields needs to do to be a good quarterback and to be productive from a fantasy standpoint. So it's close to complete panic because the first 2 weeks have looked nothing close to good. And now they face Kansas City, whose defense has been playing well, and it's at Arrowhead. Then they get Denver, whose defense looked awful last week, looked pretty good week 1. So, like, I don't know. I'm not really afraid of that defense, but they have playmakers. Then they're at Washington, which is not a good matchup for the style of quarterback that Justin Fields should be. You know what I mean? Good front seven. But then they get Minnesota in week 6, which feels like a good bounce back game before facing Las Vegas and the Chargers. So that's a good little stretch. And I don't think you like drop Fields by any means, but we still have to kind of sit back and evaluate things overall. I don't want to give up on Fields quite yet, but if we're looking at next week purely, it's got to be Tua. I mean, I'm not afraid of this Broncos defense after the performance they had at home against the Washington Commanders. Okay. And this is a good home game opportunity for the Dolphins. Next week it's Tua, but you can panic on Fields, but don't panic too much completely. Do we add Kareem Hunt? Sure. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, until we get like some concrete reporting here, I'm not 110% in. It depends on like, if you play in a league with free agent bidding, how much you have to put down, and it depends on who you have to drop. I mean, there are a lot of droppable players right now, so it just depends. But it's just kind of one of these things that happens in fantasy football. Is like, oh, we all are assuming Kareem Hunt's going to the Browns, but we don't 110% know that. So do so with hesitancy would be my recommendation. Mark, Puka was on my bench week 2, viable starter here out. I also have Mike Williams, Godwin, Flowers, and Kirk. I mean, you're in a position where you have a lot of good wide receivers. So depending on the matchup, Puka is going to be an option until Cooper Kupp comes back. And until Kupp is back, we have to start Puka unless you're selling him, because you can sell him at incredibly high value. And at some point, Kupp's going to be back as well. So, I mean, I like Puka quite a bit. Admittedly, I wasn't as crazy about him going into week 2. But I still told you guys he's a good flex option, at least. It's just the matchup made me a little worried now that the Niners secondary is their strong suit. But I just didn't know what to expect. I don't want to overreact completely to week 1. And, now looking ahead, going into week 3, he gets the Bengals. It's probably fine. But, I mean, it's just tough when you have 4 really good wide receivers like this. Even if you're in a double flex league, like you're in a position where you have 4 really good wide receivers who you probably want to start on a weekly basis right now. So it just kind of depends. I mean, looking ahead to the week 3 matchups here, you had to start Mike Williams. I mean, Keenan Allen's kind of been the guy so far, but Mike Williams against a team like the Vikings, you just can't afford to bench him. Godwin gets the Eagles, so like I'm not as crazy there. I'm not completely against it. They've looked soft at times in the secondary. They've also made plays. Zay Flowers is a must start for me in week 3 against the Colts. It's just, I would not overthink that. Zay Flowers, especially with Odell hurt, is a must start. And I told you guys Christian Kirk was going to bounce back in week 2. It's another one I was like, thank God actually happened. They get the Texans, who don't have the worst secondary in the league. They just have a very bad run defense. So, I mean, if you're benching anyone here, it's Godwin and then maybe Christian Kirk because he has that inconsistency factor. But Puka, due to pure volume until Kupp is back, is a must start. Sure. Yeah, today's games, I mean, they weren't incredibly entertaining. There wasn't a lot of like fantasy points and offense, but you got to remember these defensive matchups are still good. At the end of the day, good football games. So, John, you wouldn't do AJ Brown for Swift and Garrett Wilson, even if I'm getting Kyron off waivers. No, you're good, bro. You can keep asking. I just tell you guys all the time, I'm kind of a depth guy, and I kind of prefer to be patient with the players that I draft. I know that's not really like the trend in the fantasy community, and doing these trades correctly and selling high and everything can really benefit you throughout the season. But I'm more of a sit back, play the waiver, trust the guys that I went out and drafted, which can hurt you. And I mean, both either way can end up hurting you, right? But I mean, if you want to go get AJ Brown, it's a really good time to do it. And like I said earlier in the stream, I believe in Swift on the season, but I don't know if he's going to have a game better than what we saw last week. So it's a bright time to sell him. And then I'm not panicking on Garrett Wilson. A lot of people aren't going to like that take, but I said it all last week. I even encouraged some of you guys to start Garrett Wilson. And, I mean, he only had 2 receptions off 8 targets, which is not promising. They get New England, Kansas City, at Denver, and then at home against Philly. So, like, this upcoming stretch doesn't feel very promising for the Jets. And he apparently is questionable at the moment with an undisclosed injury that isn't on the injury report. So I don't know what that means. But I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're going to sell Garrett Wilson, he has 2 double-digit performances in a row with Zach Wilson at quarterback. It is probably the correct time to sell him. But I just maybe I'm too stubborn. I just like want to see Garrett Wilson do well. And I still think he's a good flex option. That's all I've been saying the past week or so, is I still think Garrett Wilson throughout the year is going to be a decent flex option. So um if you feel good about the trade and you know for sure that you're going to get Kyron, I'm not completely against it. But at the end of the day, if you feel good about the trade, then I think it's fine. I do think it's a fair trade in essence. Ford must be the top waiver pickup. It just depends on the size of your league, who's available. I mean, Ford's up there, but like I said at the beginning of the stream, I do believe that the Browns add another running back, so I think he'll be in a split, situation. But I mean, if Kyron Williams still available in your league, he's got to be added. Zach Moss, he's going to be productive enough, maybe not crazy productive. He was against a really soft run defense last week. It just depends, but Ford is a solid option for sure. Caleb, hope you're doing okay, man. I know you're stressing out going into week 2. Should I trade away Ford? Oh, nice. You got Ford in team. Oh, Dynasty. That makes more sense. To get Chris Godwin, I have Hall, Javonte, Kamara, Jones, Jacobs. I think that's fine. Yeah, if you're struggling at wide receiver, I think that's fine. I mean, I tell you guys this 100 times over in Dynasty. I put way more value on wide receiver and quarterback, and I don't put a lot of value on running back. You have a good amount of startable running backs. I think you're fine. It's not like Jerome Ford has crazy long-term value after this season. Maybe. I don't know. Wide receivers are AJ Brown, Evans, CD. Yeah, I mean, if you can get more depth at wide receiver, I'm fine with it. I mean, don't be too worried about Evans, Godwin stack. They've been productive enough as is, and they look productive enough this year with Baker quarterback. So I wouldn't worry about it. Birdman, good to see you. Hope you're doing fantastic tonight. Terry, would you trade Puka and Kyron for Chase and Sanders? That's close. I mean, I think if you have the opportunity to go get Chase, you probably do so. But the more productive side right now is the left side, of course. I'm not really high on Sanders. I wasn't really high on Sanders going into the year. He hasn't been like anything really worthwhile so far. Maybe that changes, but I think this offense is going to continue to struggle to move the football with Bryce Young as a rookie quarterback. I mean, the bright side here is he faces Seattle and Minnesota in the next 2 weeks. Kind of a tougher matchup against Detroit, not the worst, but then he gets Miami and then Houston and then Indy and then Chicago. So he actually there's a bye week at week 7 sprinkled in there, but he has a very favorable schedule. I mean, Atlanta and New Orleans a little bit tougher, and he still had double digits against Atlanta. So I still think, he's like a low ceiling RB2. So I think that's okay. I mean, if you want to go get Chase, then I think it's fine. Puka is going to lose volume when Cup comes back, but there are some people out there who believe that Cup is maybe not going to play this year. And then Puka takes all that volume, outside of what Tutu Atwell takes. So kind of depends on how you feel about it. GT, I played Bourne over Pickens, got too cute. Yeah, I started Bourne in a league. I haven't even checked. I have my 16 team league I've been in since like 2015. That every year I lost by 4 points. And I started Bourne over Shaheed, who had 4.6 more points than Bourne. I mean, you got to love it, right? Yeah. So if I start Shaheed there, I almost made that swap. I win that matchup. But yeah, I have Monty hurt. And in this league, I already had Deontay Johnson and Aaron Jones hurt. And it's a 16-team league, so I think I'm screwed there. So maybe that makes you feel better. But yeah, Pickens, a huge game. I was kind of struggling to get going throughout this game with Deontay out. And ultimately, that big play made up for everything. So it happens. But I always tell you guys, especially early in the season, trust the players that you drafted. I mean, that was the big message all week with Josh Kelly. Like don't start Josh Kelly over Kenneth Walker even. Go out and start the players that you drafted for a reason. And it's easy to get wrapped up in like week 1 stat lines and things like that. So got offered Kyron and Puka for Wilson. Would you make the trade? Feels crazy trading Wilson for 2 waiver guys. I mean, I don't mind that trade. I don't. But I don't mind keeping Wilson too if you feel better about him. Picked up Kamar in Dynasty with 65% of my free agent bidding. Pretty happy about that. Nice. Glad it went through for you. I know you talked about it over the weekend. Is Drake London? Yeah, Drake London has never really dropped off from wide receiver 2 contention for me. It was just a poor offensive game plan for him in week 1. Start Davis, Hall, London, Swift, Addison. Yeah. Addison is a must start this week. It's too good of a matchup. Way too good. The Chargers are 0-2. The Vikings are 0-2. Both these defenses suck. We had to start all wide receivers and probably all running backs. I even like Alexander Madison in this matchup. How do you view Pacheco rest of the season? I view him how I viewed him all off season. I liked Pacheco a lot going into the year, but he is a low end RB2. That's just what he is, right? And I don't think his ceiling's massively high because of the way this offense is ran and Patrick Mahomes and everything. But I still like Pacheco. Yeah, he's not going to get you 20 points, but I do think things are going to start turning on for Pacheco. I talk about that in the must start running back video that'll drop tomorrow. He gets the Bears in week 3. It's a tough matchup in week 4 against the Jets. Then he gets Minnesota. Then he gets Denver, Chargers, Denver, Miami, a bye week. I think things are going to pick up for Isaiah Pacheco. So I like him. Do I bench Watson after this trash performance? Such a bum. 3 turnovers. All I have. Yeah, you could throw out Anthony Richardson if you're not confident in Deshaun Watson, for sure. A-Rich is probably going to be one of these guys who, even against bad matchups, finds a way to be productive. So I'm good with him. How do you feel about Jamar Chase versus season? Should I try to trade him in redraft? Actually, I wouldn't. I wouldn't personally trade Jamar Chase. I would trade for Jamar Chase. I wouldn't panic on him. I'm fine with Chase. Just a slow start. Why do the football guys hate me? Chubb was basically never hurt for this year. Again, he's out for the rest of the season. Good thing I had Henry. Yeah, it just happens. Just part of it. Nothing we can do. Cook, Jones, or Javonte to start. I mean, Jones, if he's healthy, is probably who I would say, but he does have a tough matchup. It's at home, but they still get the Saints, whose defense unit looks good through 2 games. I really like James Cook moving forward, but he's got a tough matchup against the Commanders, and I'm just not a Javonte Williams guy. I don't know why, because I really like Javonte coming into the league and as a rookie and like everything. And he's got some promising matchups coming up, but not in week 3 necessarily. Or excuse me, he does. I looked at that wrong. In week 3, he gets the Dolphins. So like he's got the best matchup if you want to risk it. But I probably, just due to the player alone, start Aaron Jones. But I don't mind Cook. He does have Washington though. It's a possibility for the Browns trade for Akers. Yeah, we touched on that. I mean, it could definitely happen. Most of my QB RBs are Bijan and Dalvin. Wide receivers are Ridley, Evans, and Tutu. I am too far down the chat. Trying to remember. Hold on. I think I can find it on my second screen. Hold on. Okay, so you'd be getting Addison and one of the running backs. I still feel like the JT part just stands out to me. I mean, you'd be getting Addison and Rashad White, or Addison Carr on Addison and Cook. I mean, you do need the running back upgrade, and you probably need it immediately. And you do get another good wide receiver, which looks like you could use a little bit of depth, even having Ridley and Evans. So, I mean, if you feel good about it, I'm not 100% against it. I just feel like the JT part is standing out to me. Do you trade Mike Evans for Amari Cooper? Rendon, he could. I mean, I still think Mike Evans, I mean, it's a good opportunity to sell him coming off of 2 big performances. But as long as he stays healthy, like I don't really see that changing. Cooper is probably going to be a little bit more consistent. He's got a really good week 3 matchup, so you can. But like, I still feel like Evans, Cooper, pretty similar in tier by the time the season ends. But I mean, right now Evans has the upside, but I think Cooper could be a little bit more consistent, maybe. Should I trade and get Monty and Godwin, trade away Ford and Shaheed? I mean, I would, but feel like the only reason you're able to, I mean, this is dynasty. I don't hate it. I mean, I like Shaheed quite a bit. We talked about him a lot this offseason. It depends if you're kind of in a win now situation. You probably take Monty and Godwin. If you're not, then you might want to hold Ford and Shaheed. Ford or Moss, this is a tough one because the Browns are probably going to add a running back, and then Moss is probably going to be replaced, presumably by JT. Moss will probably face the Ravens and then the Rams, which is not nearly as good as the Texans. Jerome Ford will get the Titans, which is not a good matchup, than the Ravens, which is not a good matchup. So maybe Jerome Ford has more long-term value. So maybe we go out and that's who we roll with. But it's still kind of like there's negatives and positives of both these guys. We're in a 12-person PPR league and we're 0-2. We're in desperate need of running back. How much money should we spend on Nick Chubb's backup? The budget's $150. I mean, if you're completely desperate, you're 0-2, Mechie, throw down some bread. Throw down $50, $60. Ooh, Kyron or Nico. Wow, that's tough. That's super tough because both are phenomenal ads, right? I can't even believe Nico Collins available even after week 1. Nico. I mean, I don't know. You put in a waiver for both. I mean, context matters here. Depends on. I have to see the full roster, but you can't really go wrong. You're still going to end up with a really good ad at running back or wide receiver either way. Albert, good to see you. How are you doing, man? All right, sorry. Chat is messing up for me. Almost. I don't know why it does this where it repeats the chat. Okay. Ghost Hunter Chubb owner. Should I try to trade DJ Moore for Connor? I have Ayuk, I'm assuming. Evans, Debo, Davis, Sutton, Tutu. Yeah, you might be in a position where you need to. So you probably can. Oh, Mike Evans, Debo, Gabe Davis, Sutton, Tutu. I mean, you have enough starting wide receivers that if you feel like you need to, you can. Connor coming off a big game. Sometimes one thing I kind of encourage you guys to do, like Connor gets the Cowboys in week 3. Maybe wait and see if he has a bad game, and maybe you can buy him for a worse player, selling a worse player. At the same time, maybe DJ Moore has a bad game against the Chiefs, and then it ends up screwing you. So I don't know. I feel like it's a fine trade to go ahead and do if you feel like you need to do. Aiden, best trade ever made, Chubb and Herbert for Mixon, Judy, and Evans. Nice. Thoughts on Nico rest of the season? I'm a big fan of Nico. Admittedly, I wasn't as big on the Texans wide receiver core going into the season because I felt like there were a lot of options there. And overall, I just didn't know who was going to be the primary guy and get the chemistry. But CJ Stroud is ripping the football all over the place. And the Texans are letting him throw, and he's not making mistakes. And he's faced a pretty good defense in the Ravens in week 1. So it's not like because he faced the Colts, we're just like rolling our eyes and seeing what's going to happen next. Like, he's played a good defense and a bad defense, and the Texans trust him, and he's not really making mistakes, at least throwing the football. He's had some fumbles, but I think Nico is getting good volume, and yeah, I'm a fan. I mean, why wouldn't I be, right? Chris, I'm assuming that's Chris. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Thank you for dropping in. I like it. I'm really torn on the situation with the Browns backfield already because I mean a lot of people are already assuming that there's going to be another running back added to this backfield, and maybe it's just Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong for a couple games. Maybe they do add a player like Kareem Hunt or Leonard Fournette right away. Maybe they trade for Cam Akers. So I'd be a little bit more hesitant before I drop a lot of my free agent bidding on Jerome Ford. And I do think, compared to Zach Moss, he's probably going to be replaced shortly. And Matt Breida, who's only going to be the lead back for about 3 games. Jerome Ford at least has more committee value than those other guys. So I do think he's probably worth more free agent bidding than those 2 running backs who in most leagues are probably the top guys going into this week, assuming that Kyron Williams is already taken, and even Josh Kelly, who could see some touches for a couple more games till Eckler potentially comes back. So I don't know. It depends, of course, on how much free agent bidding is in each particular league, but I still think he's worth a good chunk, especially with how many people out there are already struggling at running backs, and now some of these injuries starting to mount up between guys like Eckler, Barkley, and now Nick Chubb, unfortunately. So I would say a decent amount for sure. But Chris, thank you for dropping in once again. Assuming it's Chris, if it's Pierre, hi Pierre. Appreciate you, man. And unfortunately, here we are in week 3, already dealing with more and more injuries. I mean, it's been like I don't remember the last time we had a season where going into week 1 we had major injuries popping up for players, and week 2 plethora of more and more injuries. So we'll see how things shake out. Puka, I got Puka and Addison chilling on my bench. What kind of running back could I get? My running backs are weak, or should I keep Puka, trade Addison and DJ Moore? I mean, once again, with a lot of these trade questions, I mean, you guys know I kind of prefer to see, like, I mean, it's a pain to type out your full roster. You can post it to Discord as well. But context does kind of matter because, I mean, well, you're just saying Puka and Addison are chilling on your bench. I mean, for me, I prefer to keep Addison because we know this Vikings offense is going to continue to sling the football. We know at the end of the day that they're going to be in these kind of game scripts where they're playing from behind and their defense is playing poor. So I would probably keep Addison. I mean, I don't know. I don't really want to get rid of Puka either because I do think he can be a good flex option once Cooper Kupp returns. Like, he's not going to get 20 targets necessarily, but I think he'll get enough targets, and I think he'll be in front of Tutu on the depth chart. So, I mean, if anything, DJ Moore coming off a good game, I maybe try to move DJ Moore, which I can't believe I'm saying as much as I liked DJ Moore going into the season. So I don't know, maybe just hold. I mean, I always encourage you guys, like, at the end of the day, depth is a good thing on your bench. As we're seeing from this past weekend, it's okay to have depth at certain positions. What's up with Trevor Lawrence? Yeah, this is a decent question to ask. Another guy I was really high on going into the year. I think he'll be fine. Last year he started the year with 14 points, 18 points, 25 points, 6 points, and 12 points through the first 5 games. And his big stretch was weeks 6 through week 16. He had 16 or more fantasy points in every game, but one he played really poor in week 8 against Denver. But then 18 or more fantasy points in all those games, other than those 2 16-point performances. So I would give T-Law a little bit of time to get going. It was still a good enough week 1 performance and 18 fantasy points. And, the Colts defense did a couple things in that game, but Travis Etienne also had 18 rushing attempts for 77 rushing yards. And Tank Bigsby also had 7 rushing attempts. So, last week, the Chiefs defense just playing like actually pretty dang good right now. So he gets Houston, he gets Atlanta. I'm not really sneezing at Atlanta currently, but their defense isn't great. They're at Buffalo. I don't really actually believe in Buffalo's defense personally. Then Indy. So, like, I think there's a couple good games before they're at New Orleans, at Pittsburgh, a bye week. They host San Francisco, host Tennessee. Tennessee secondary is trash, but their front seven's not. So, like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, the game scripts just haven't been really supporting Trevor Lawrence. Week 1 should have been a little bit better. I'll admit that. Lawrence or Stroud? Don't you just love it? I mean, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we would have never imagined asking this type of question, but here we are. But yeah, like I said, Stroud's been ripping it all over the field. So, I'm still trusting Trevor Lawrence right now. So, yeah, I'm not 100% moving on from him quite yet. Thoughts on trading Evans and Judy for Brown? I think that's a good trade. I mean, I like Evans still, but I don't believe in Judy, so I'm good with that. Another potential trade for me, Evans and Sutton for Pollard and Pacheco. I mean, I would definitely consider this. If you're hurting at running back and you have the wide receiver depth, I think it's fair. I'd take Pollard for Evans. I'd take Pacheco for Sutton. Yeah. What's up, B Silva? I was offered a choice of 2, Kamara Mixon, Brian Robinson, for my Waddle and Flowers. My only running backs are Cook, Chuba. Picked up Ford before kickoff. Why is everyone picking up Ford before kickoff? Did I miss something? or it was just coincidental. Yeah, your running backs are really bad, but I really don't want to see you lose Waddle and Flowers. So it depends on the rest of your wide receivers. Um, I would, I would take Brian Robinson right now the way he's playing, and I mean, I don't mind if you like Kamara or Mixon. I think both are fine. Like, I don't see a crazy high ceiling for them. So, um, yeah, it's tough here. The context definitely matters on this one because I really like Waddle and Flowers. DeAndre Swift season, what's up, man? I got Barkley, Breida, and Tank Dell on waivers. I got Barkley. ... Breida and Tank Dell are on waivers. I like both a lot. Should I pick up? Are they worth dropping for Tyler Boyd? I would. I mean, I don't think Tank Dell is going to be like incredibly consistent, but we've touched on Stroud a little bit tonight. This Texans offense is going to throw the football. And we talked about Tank Dell coming in to the year and everything, and the chemistry potentially building between CJ Stroud and Tank Dell both coming in as rookies. So, I mean, Breida is kind of a plug and play over Barkley. Like, you're not getting Barkley stat lines, but he replaces that for now. You get presumably the RB1 for the Giants, which we're still going to have to take a look at reporting. But I will say it's a short week for the Giants, and they're at the Niners. So I don't really particularly like, I'm not crazy about Breida. Then they host the Seahawks, which is much better in week 4. But then let's just look because we're expecting Barkley out 3 weeks. So in let's see, following that, they're at the Dolphins. So there's 2 good matchups there. So it's just this week, I don't know if he's going to be like, hopefully you have someone else to plug in because I don't know if he's going to be the guy for you. I kind of lean Tank Dell, but it just depends on how desperate you are at running back. Zay Flowers or Ridley. I mean, I still don't really feel like we can bench Ridley just yet. He's going to have Derek Stingley on him more than likely this week, but Zay Flowers is in the must-start wide receiver video for what it's worth. Should I trade CMC, Mike Williams, Flowers, and Woods for Amon-Ra, Lockett, Hall, and Kamara? I mean, these type of trades always are interesting. My running backs are CMC, Monty, Mostart, Roshan. So you're hurting at running back. Wide receivers are Ridley, Watson, Mike Williams, Cooks, and Woods. I mean, I wouldn't do this trade. I mean, you're fine at wide receiver, even if you don't have like a massive amount of you get Amon-Ra. He's actually a little bit banged up. We need to monitor that this week. But I'm just not trading away CMC on a team where I'm then relying on Monty, Mostart, Roshan, Hall, and Kamara. Plus, you'd be losing Flowers and Mike Williams. I just wouldn't do the trade personally. I just wouldn't personally do the trade. Can I take on Chubb again? Since you probably already talked about it, it's always sad seeing players get hurt like that. What's your thought on running back room moving forward on the broken our fantasy football pickups? Yeah. So once again, I think Jerome Ford's fine to go ahead and pick up. Like I do think they're going to add another running back, but it's just tough here. I think Ford's fine. I do think someone else is going to get added, and then they face the Titans this coming week. Then they get the Ravens. Like, it's just not great matchups. But then they have a bye week, so I expect them to have another team. Then they get the Niners. Like, I mean, it's just like, even with Nick Chubb facing those defenses, you can start them. With Jerome Ford facing those defenses, you can't quite start them or start them, and have full confidence. So that's the thing that I worry about the most with Jerome Ford. And then like we're gonna have to see who gets added to this roster potentially. Yeah, Marco, did you beat me? I haven't even looked, but good matchup. And I know there are some close ones going into these 2 games tonight between the different leagues. So if I remember correctly, I think your team put up a good amount of points. So I feel I need a running back. I have Connor, Mostart, and Kamara when he comes back. 12-man league. Any running back I should try trading for? I mean, it's kind of tough here because you just have to kind of look across your league and see what teams are in need of position that you have more depth at and who you can realistically go out and upgrade at. mean, your running backs are okay, but like you're alluding to, you just don't have massive upside. So you just have to kind of look like what other players can you actually move on from looking at your roster. To rate my team, I have Lawrence, White, Pacheco, Wilson, JJ, Goddard, Judy, Jones, Kirk, Kamara, Komet, Watson trades. I mean, I think at this point, check if Hunter Henry's available at tight end. Goddard's a guy you can sell really low right now. I mean, at least you have Komet, who I think like right now is. I mean, Komet's been better this year than Goddard. I mean, your team looks pretty okay. I mean, you still have JJ as the silver lining, and like you have Christian Kirk and you have Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson's going to come back. So you have options at wide receiver. White and Pacheco, hopefully Kamara helps out a little bit. You just don't have a massive amount of upside at running back as much as I like Rashad White. And I don't really mind Pacheco. Good backup quarterback. So, I mean, like, depends on what you can upgrade to, but maybe you can move Kirk or Wilson coming off of good games. Kirk's going to be a little bit inconsistent, I think, this year, unfortunately, as much as I hate to admit it. And Wilson is in a tough situation, of course. Goddard, you can move on from. I would say maybe try to tier up in your wide receiver 2 spot and see what you can potentially field for running back. But once again, you have to look through your league and see where you can potentially realistically make those moves at. Would you start? I knew this was going to come up at some point tonight because I actually like Najee Harris going into tonight. So obviously that was a bad call. He had that one run that looked good, which is not promising. But yeah, 43 yards on the ground off at 10 attempts. And we saw Jaylen Warren go in and he looked better. So he finished with 12 fantasy points because he had 4 receptions. They get Las Vegas and Houston. These are going to be 2 very telling matchups for this backfield. Potentially, I would, but I don't want to jump to conclusions 100% yet. But for all my faith in Najee Harris this offseason, it looks like Warren is really becoming a thing. So we need to really monitor this usage over these 2 soft run defenses the next 2 weeks. Pickens are 2-2. I go Pickens for now while Deontay's out. Better volume. Do you trade Godwin for Watson? Maybe. Let's see when Watson's starting again. I still think Godwin's just a safe play each week in PPR. Is Saquon and DJ Moore for Hurts and Jacobs a bad deal? If you're struggling at quarterback, not really, but I'd still rather roster Saquon than Jacobs. Is it better for me to get Godwin and trade away Ford, or for me to get Godwin and Monty and trade away Ford and Shaheed? I don't mind this trade if you feel good about it. I like Shaheed, but he's still kind of that like boomer bust. Like he's a flex play. Looked good tonight though, and has looked good in week 1. Derek Carr seems to like him, but if you're in a win now position, I think you do the trade. If you're not, then you can hold. Start Fields or Richardson. I mean, you can fire up Richardson if you feel better about it. I don't have a problem with it. Would you drop Mooney for Reynolds? Yes. Josh Reynolds is for sure a pickup right now. Yeah. What dynasty league are you in? Nico's gone. I don't know if I don't remember if that question pertained to a dynasty league or a redraft league. Yeah, I'm not surprised Chubb is out. Yeah. Oh no, it'll be okay, Dom. It'll be okay. Yeah, Najee, fair to panic on. At least you have Puka. There we go. Looking at top QBs in 2 weeks in my league, it's Cousins, Love, Russ, and Mac. Yeah, I mean, the waiver quarterbacks smacked this week. Daniel Jones just went crazy. Cousins went crazy. Yeah. Jordan Love, Russ, all kinds of things. I bet Cleveland wishes they had Hunt right now. Well, they might end up with them. Any chances Zamir takes Jacob's spot? Probably not. Steelers, baby, dropped 100 when they were plus 310. Nice. I had a good weekend in that regard as well, Smokey. I'm glad you did. Is Drake London going back to the starting lineup? Yeah, he probably could have been in your starting lineup last week, but I understand why he wasn't. Gainwell or Zach Moss? If Gainwell is healthy, he's fine. I mean, like we just got to. The problem here is like, I mean, Zach Moss is at home against the Rams, so that's probably fine. And then Gainwell, on the other hand, is they're at home this week. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong week. They're at home against the Bucks, so I might go Zach Moss. Ford did not look bad. That's fair. He did look good, but I still think he's going to be kind of in the kind of committee approach, in my opinion. We'll see. Started 0-2, traded Saquon Cup for Walker, Amon-Ra, and Flowers. I mean, right now that doesn't look like that bad of a trade. I have Puka. Yeah, you're probably okay right now, Brad. Just keep pounding, man. Keep setting the best lineup you can. Jerome Ford versus Pierre Strong. I mean, I think Pierre Strong could start to get sprinkled in, but it's ultimately Jerome Ford. Yeah, I think at least. Cleveland might bring in Hunt, Callie. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. It's definitely a possibility. I do think they'll add another running back. Want to trade Chiron for Debo. Also waiting to drop Muth and roll with Kincaid. I mean, I think that's fine. You know better than anyone, Smokey. You're the Steelers fan in the chat. Are we panicking on Freiermuth? I'm very disappointed in him right now, even though he did score a touchdown in week 1. And if you're good enough at running back, I think that trade's fine. This depends on your running back depth. Nikki says, I did it. I finally did. I dropped Dylan. Been 3 years. Dropped him cold. Nice. Weight off your shoulders, right? Yeah, Dylan looked bad. Just looked bad in replacement of Aaron Jones. And I mean, part of that may have been the matchup. I don't know, but he just didn't. And I was an AJ Dillon believer as well, so don't feel too bad. I was really big on AJ Dillon going into last year as well. But like, regardless, they get the Saints this week. And like, even if Aaron Jones misses this week, it just doesn't look like another great matchup. But 15 rushing attempts, 3.6 yards per carry. He's not awful, but he just didn't look like he elevated this offense in any way. So we shall see. Need a tight end for the season. I mean, it depends on who's available. Komet or Ertz. I still have faith in Komet, but I think Ertz is okay if you feel better about him. It's kind of like Ertz still has Josh Dobbs at quarterback. So it's like, he's looked okay, though. I mean, he doesn't look bad. I think I still kind of believe in Komet, but I can certainly understand if you wanted to go Zach Ertz right now. Komet has been kind of just fine. Like, oh, I got 7-ish points out of my tight end. Okay. Ertz has gotten really good volume, though. So if you decide to go that route, that's fine. I do think there's larger injury risk with Ertz, though. The business circuit, 8-man, Mahomes, Pollard, Eckler, Wilson, Kirk, Waller, McLaurin, Cards, Folk. What should I do? I'm 0-2. Who should I trade for or pick up? I mean, you're just kind of in a situation where Wilson got put in a bad situation. Eckler's hurt, but ultimately your team's still not bad. I mean, maybe you can package Garrett Wilson. I mean, it looks like we don't have your bench here, but maybe you have a player you can package him with and potentially upgrade a wide receiver. I would play the waiver strong at running back and wait till Eckler comes back, though. But maybe you can, upgrade at wide receiver. Mateo, thoughts on my teams? What move should I make? I started 0-2. Allen, CMC, Najee, Waddle, Watson, Dotson, Hunter Henry, Dobbs, Bills, Goff, Gainwell, Javonte, Roschon, Bourne, Laporta, and Pitts. I mean, you have a pretty solid team overall. I wouldn't be panicking completely here, but we're starting Allen and CMC. The RB2 situation is kind of rough. I mean, if there's good enough players, I mean, keep playing the waiver at running back. But yeah, I mean, Watson's going to be healthy for you. Dotson has been disappointing this year. So, I mean, it's kind of tough here because like Pitts is, Laporta is worth keeping. You can move on from Pitts. If you can sell Pitts low, then so be it. Package him with Bourne or even Roschon, I think is okay. You probably want to hold on to Javonte for now and Gainwell, but I think Roschon, Bourne, Pitts, even if you're to move on from Goff, like, I mean, I think that's okay. You can find someone else to stream if you need to. You have Josh Allen, so maybe you can move on from Dobbs because you have Watson, or maybe vice versa. You move on from Watson because you have Dobbs, but you probably want the upside play in Watson. So a couple of different ways you can kind of try to upgrade, but yeah, Najee not looking like a promising situation for you. If Warren's available, you can go pick him up too, but it's tough here. You definitely keep Allen, CMC, Waddle, probably Watson, and Maybe he can package Dotson too, but I still believe in him. Yeah, Nick, I mean, we've talked about this time. Cam Akers definitely a possibility to the Browns, and there's probably 1 or 2 other running backs on the trade block that we don't even really know are being mentioned that could end up there as well. So we'll just have to be patient. I'm Najee. What do I do with him? I mean, what can you do with him? That's the thing. When a player has a game or two like this, you can't sell him. You're just selling him for scraps. You just hold him. You just have to. Yeah, the Browns could sign Fournette. We talked about that as well. Who? I have Dak, CD, McLaurin, Judy, Barkley, Connor, Dylan, Thielen, A. Rich, Tony, Boyd, Bourne, and Cup on IR. Stressing about the Barkley injury. I mean, yeah, that definitely hurts because we just talked about Dylan. We're not feeling confident in him. So play the waiver. Play the waiver heavy right now. I mean, there's going to be a couple options that popped up this week. So see what you can do there. But your wide receivers look good enough. I mean, at least, well, I don't know. You actually have some problems at wide receiver. Thielen did some things tonight, though, so I guess hold on to him. But Tony, Boyd, Bourne, Judy, all these guys can be shipped and even potentially dropped to a degree for better players. Tony and Boyd can be dropped if there's the right players out there. Josh Reynolds, Tutu Atwell, for example. Um, but yeah, like you could try and trade like Dylan and Judy, but just tough when they're not coming off of great games. You have to keep Terry on this team, though. Bijan, Gibbs, Jacobs, Warren, Roshan, and Chiron. Um, oh, I read that wrong. Okay, so yeah, I mean, maybe you want to hold on to Chiron. I don't know. Depends on your wide receivers, actually. Yeah, if you don't feel like you're going to get any running backs, then maybe you try and you got to keep CD McLaurin. You still have to keep Barkley. You have to keep Connor. You probably want to keep rostering A Rich. I mean, maybe you're in a position where you try and trade Dak and you roll with A Rich or vice versa, but it just depends on what you can get for it. Yeah, Josh Reynolds should be a priority ad. Don't drop Deontay. You should be able to put him on IR. Yeah, Kyron Williams is going to be an okay RB2. I would not worry about it. Nikki's a dynasty team here. Burrow. I have so many shares of Burrow in dynasty. I mean, he'll be okay, right? AJ Brown, Amara, Puka, nice. Bijan, Cook, Hawkinson, Flowers, Ford, decent enough. Akers, Burks, JSN Pacheco, Najee, Kamara, Mayer, Mingo. Doesn't look too bad at all. I mean, decent amount of depth here. I mean, you're probably okay. I mean, the main thing I always look for in dynasty is just more and more wide receiver depth as possible. But team looks fine. Brown and Brown never hurts, right? Bijan's on that team too, so we're good there. What's going on, Crew Burke? Everlast, what's going on? Thanks for the advice to Mike Williams. Going forward, do you think Otten would be a better matchup than Komet? He gets the Eagles. They didn't play well against Hawkinson last week, so maybe. Or Otten is kind of a sneaky value at tight end right now. But I think Komet's okay. I think these guys are still close, though. Hunter Henry is a guy that Hunter Henry Dom should be added. Yeah. Probably over most other waiver wire tight ends. Sell high on Mostert and Addison. I would not sell on Addison, but Mostert is fine to sell on. And I still like Mostert, but I would not sell on Addison. But Mostert's fine. So trade for Cook or Najee. They're completely. You should be. If you do, you're buying them for scraps. The way things are looking for those guys right now. Rest of the season running back Cook, B Rob, Chiron. I would probably go Chiron, B Rob, Cook, but I like all three of these guys right now. You can't really. I just think Chiron's going to get a lot of touches, but I really like the way Brian Robinson looks right now. It might be Brian Robinson for me, and I do like Cook a lot too. So I think all these guys are fine. No IR spots. Depends on who you're dropping them for. CD Chase traded him for London and DJ Moore, Dotson, and that's it. Then maybe you do that trade for Depot. Henry Ertz or Laporta. I really like Laporta right now. He's like tied for a rookie record for most receptions through 2 games at tight end. But but probably Henry. I'm kind of infatuated with Henry, so maybe I'm too biased. I don't do trade target videos, unfortunately, but I do edit full time for Fantasy Endgame, and I edited their trade video, which will drop tomorrow morning. So you can go check out their trade video, which is much better than any content I would ever make. But yeah, got to keep an eye on Gainwell for sure. Swift could go off again this week, 100%, baby. Vinny, what's going on? What's your thoughts on this trade? Puka, Moore, and Miles Sanders for Swift, Algier, and Cooper. I would do the Puka side. I keep the Puka side. Puka, DJ Moore, Miles Sanders. I think Algier is going to start losing volume. Cooper's fine. I mean, I don't know. Like both sides are fine. One side is 2 running backs, one side is 2 wide receivers. So I guess it kind of depends on what you need more wide receiver or running back, but it's a pretty even trade overall. Puka's probably going to lose volume. Algier's probably going to lose volume. So kind of depends on what you need. Crew 12 team, half PPR, Burrow, Pierce, Cook, Chase, Olave, Andrews, Chiron, Gabe Davis, Thielen, Kelly, Quinn Johnston, Jacoby, JT and IR currently 0-2. I mean, there's going to be players here like Kelly and Quentin Johnston that maybe you can just move on from. I mean, Kelly, I really didn't like Kelly last week. But admittedly, he gets the Vikings this week, which I think could be a really good matchup for him. Then he gets the Raiders, potentially, if Eckler misses that game as well. So I actually think he's going to have some really nice opportunities these next 2 weeks. And then if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the Chargers are on bye in week 5. I think Eckler might sit until week 5 and rest through the bye. But it's a tough matchup with Dallas, but I don't know. I don't want to say he's worth dropping, but he could be a player that you potentially sell low, or maybe you wait and you sell him high because I do think he's got some nice matchups coming up. But Quentin Johnston, I don't feel like, I mean, I don't know. It's gonna just take that 1 week where like he really pops, but he has not looked like a player that you have to roster for struggling. Thielen coming off a big game, maybe you can sell Thielen and Jacoby Myers. It was just in concussion protocol, but he had a big game. Like maybe you can package those guys and upgrade. But Burrow's the other thing. You can stream a quarterback for now. Burrow's going to need some time, I think, unfortunately. Pierce and Cook, you're kind of struggling at running back. You got to keep Chiron. Maybe you start Chiron and Cook, and then you start chasing Olave, start Andrews. Flex Gabe Davis for fun. Maybe you could trade Gabe Davis coming off a big game. I think anyone on your bench is worth trading, but maybe hold on to Kelly for these next couple games just for the depth and wait till JT comes back. So I trade Kenneth Walker and Fields for Chase. Depending on your roster, I think it's an okay trade. Yeah. You get Chase. So Dotson versus Buffalo or Reynolds, and half PPR Reynolds right now. Puka will be fine when Cup comes back. His volume is going to drop, but he'll be okay. He'll be a good flex option. That's in a nutshell, my opinion. Cats, what's up, bro? Going back to the Josh Kelly. Well, if Eckler misses again, usage was nice. Yeah, and like I just said, I think he has some nice matchups coming up, which is a good call for the week, right? Henry at Jets or Ferguson. Ferguson. I like Henry a lot, but Ferguson because Arizona sucks against the position. Pick 3 rest of the season: Nico, Addison, McLaurin, London, and Dotson. Did you leave this comment on the video? Because I think I read it and I was like, oh my God. I keep Addison. I keep McLaurin just due to volume, and I mean, could you trade some of these guys? You don't have to drop them, right? You could probably trade London and Dotson. London coming off a big game. Dotson, maybe someone likes his upside. I don't dislike London. That's really close between London and Nico, but Nico's volume's been really good. And maybe I keep Nico, Addison, and McLaurin. But London's super close if you like him over one of those guys. Nico, Addison, McLaurin, that's kind of where I'm leaning to, because I still think London, as good as he is going to have some of those games where he gets outbid by the run game. Is Drake London a good start against Detroit? Yeah, he's fine. Perfectly fine. Do you really think Swift is going to be good? Start moving forward with Gainwell coming back, or selling high is the move right now. You can sell high if you think it's the right move. I've been a Swift guy. Like, I'm biased. I was a Swift guy before the season even started. I have a lot of shares at Swift, so I think Swift's going to have a good year. But I think Gainwell is going to be involved. I've said it all off season long. So it's the way this offense is ran. I'm not really worried about it. But is he going to have another game like we saw last week? I don't quite think so. So if you want to sell high, that's fine. Should I drop for Hunter Henry, Rashid, or Dalvin? It might be Dalvin. Rashid's looking like a good flex play. Chase, I'm hurting 0-2 in a 16-man league. Cousins, Chubb, Monty, Moore in London, flex Algier. Benches Sky Moore, Pickett, Allen Robinson, Ford, Roschon. I mean, who's out there on the waiver? There's going to be a couple good waiver moves this week, but yeah, bench doesn't look extremely strong. Sky Moore might start to move in, but yeah, you're going to lose Monty. Oh, you're going to lose Monty and Chubb. You already have 2 players on IR. Jeez. I mean, you got to drop, like, you have Ford, which is good. Yeah, that's tough, man. That's really tough. You just got to play the waiver at running back for now, and you got to start who you can, and Sky Moore might be in some of your starting lineups. Snag Ford 1 hour before kickoff because Deontay and IR open a slot for me. Yeah, a lot of people picked up Ford on IR. Box and the Jack was good. How do we feel about the Monty injury? Yeah, that one hasn't come up today. I mean, I don't know, like Gibbs season. That's my immediate reaction. I hope Monty comes back soon, but he's day to day. It's a thigh injury, so we'll just have to monitor it. Holding on Swift, I don't care. I agree. You're good. Yeah, that's tough, Chase. I'm in a 16-man league where I have Najee Harris, Montgomery, Deontay Johnson, and Aaron Jones. It makes you feel better. Thoughts on Roschon? He's a bench handcuff guy for now. It's okay, Chase. It'll get better. Just traded Raheem Mostart for Kamara to Chubb owner. Running backs are Javonte, Madison, and Taylor. That's fine. I think Mostart's fine. Kamara will probably be fine. I don't think it necessarily was a crazy upgrade or downgrade in any way. So if you feel good about it, then that's okay. Tony Jones versus Green Bay is probably just okay. It's a better the Panthers are a better matchup than Green Bay, but he should be okay. I don't expect a ton out of him. And then Kamara's coming back. So who's a drop for Ford? Mitchell, Shane, Cooks, Moore, Tony, JSN. I mean, I hate to admit it, but probably Devon A. Shane right now, the way his season has started. Shane or Tony. All right, ladies and gentlemen, finally made it to the bottom of the chat. I went a little bit longer than I expected to tonight, but great stream tonight. A lot of good questions, very interactive. I appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. And I mean, I know we had a lot to go over tonight, so I'm glad I was able to hop on and hopefully help out quite a few of you guys. So I appreciate you guys. If you guys are new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream and ended up becoming part of the community and subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much if you did. Guys, do all the YouTube stuff. Hit the like. Our links are down below. Discord, Instagram, all that good stuff. But I got to edit both of tomorrow's videos. And then tomorrow I'll be doing nothing but editing, which is awesome. And on a week 3, can't wait for it. So let's go, ladies and gentlemen. So I will not be streaming tomorrow, but I will be on Wednesday night. I'll be on Thursday before kickoff with Steven. I'll be on Friday, more than likely with Pete from After the Review. And then Saturday, Sunday is kind of up in the air for me because I might be going out of town this weekend. I might not. I was supposed to go out of town last weekend and our Airbnb's bathroom flooded. So I have all this stuff up in the air. But nonetheless, I'll be here for you guys throughout the week one way or another. So yeah. Discord links down below, Instagram's down below. Hit the like, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream tonight. Thank you guys so much for all the fantasy questions. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through it. Big night in terms of fantasy implications, but everyone's rosters will be just fine. So appreciate you guys, man. I love you guys, man. Love this community. Love the Catch fam. And on to week 3 we go, ladies and gentlemen. With that, I will say, thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on the Catch. And peace.